I try to keep it positive here, but every now and again, I have to look at songs and artists from a completely different perspective. And, the truth is, even the greatest artists can write a stinker. So today, we're going to venture into the age-old conundrum. When bad songs happen to great artists, even genius artists, and you're going to have a heyday with this one, I think, including a song that is so annoying it causes angry convulsions once a year. Another that the band has erased from its history, and then one that was written for Celine Dion and given to a hard rock band, and it became their biggest hit ever. And then another one that tries so hard to be deep, it's boring. So we're going to push the envelope a bit on this episode with a thought-provoking list of 5 bad songs by great artists. Coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you know how many licks it takes to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Remember that commercial? And make sure to subscribe below right now. Click the big red button and click the bell so you always know when our latest and greatest come out. Also, check out the t-shirt of the day is Billy Joel. Get yours at 80stees.com below. It's thousands of the coolest t-shirts you'll ever find. Also, the link right up here. Also, check us out on Patreon for even more content. I've been thinking about this one for a long time. I've been wanting to do it for a while. That all too familiar curse for any great artist. When bad songs happen to great artists, it happens to the best of the best. And I want to hear your picks below as we go through these. It's okay. Every now and again, a bad song has to come out. I've been waiting to do this for a while because one of these picks is a seasonal song. You're going to see what I mean in the countdown. These are so terrible. My only rule for this top 5 is that these are songs that had to be singles because every artist has written at least 1 or 2 decent or bad tracks on about every album. We can't all be perfect. It's hard to even listen to them. But you know what? Let's have a great time with this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so let's get into it. Coming in at number 5 on our list, I've got the Bad Boys of Boston with a song that thankfully they didn't write, but this cheese fest of a song became their biggest hit ever. A little embarrassing. It's Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith. Now, I'll probably catch some flack for this one because I know there's a lot of people that love this song. I'm not one of them. This moment forever. The sickly sweet power ballad was written by prolific lyricist Diane Warren. Diane originally wrote it for Celine Dion. She was imagining her singing the composition. A singer like Aerosmith, Steven Tyler was the furthest thing from her mind. Now, she came up with the idea while she was watching a TV interview in 1997 with James Brolin and Barbra Streisand, conducted by Barbara Walters.
And we were just about to fall asleep, I thought, and he says, I don't want to fall asleep. And so I say, why not? And he says, because then I'll miss you.
And that triggered the phrase, I don't want to miss a thing. As Diane developed the lyrics for the song, she came up with the lines that she later admitted that she found are really silly. Such as the line, I can stay awake just to hear you breathing. Awake just to hear you breathing. And the demo of the song was just some singing to a piano melody, not even close to a rock ballad, mind you. Now, when Steven and Aerosmith were approached to perform the song for the Armageddon movie soundtrack, Diane sat down at a piano with Steven inside a suite at the Sunset Marquis Hotel in West Hollywood. So while she was teaching Steven Tyler the song, she remembered that she got goosebumps as Steven began to get familiar with the spirit of her song. Hearing him sing her song was pretty amazing, and he surprised her with how natural it was for him to sing. The 4 members of Aerosmith, including guitarist Joe Perry, had only 3 days to record the song, and they were given a take it or leave it option by the film company. Now, Joe and his bandmates preferred having more time to, make it a real Aerosmith song, make it a little edgier, but it turned out to be exactly what Diane Warren and the movie studio wanted. So note to every hard rock band out there, if the writer of the song wrote said song for Celine Dion and then asked you to sing it, you probably had to steer clear. Of course, I don't want to miss a thing. The theme for the blockbuster disaster film in '98 that co-starred Steven's daughter Liv Tyler, Armageddon. It's one of 4 Aerosmith songs that was featured in the movie along with What Kind of Love Are You On? Sweet Emotion was in there, and their version of Come Together, much better songs. Despite its schmaltz, though, it was by far Aerosmith's biggest hit. As a grand production with a 52-piece orchestra, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing went to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Actually sat there for a month. It's also a chart topper in Australia, Germany, Greece, Ireland, Austria, Norway, Italy, even the Netherlands. 'Cause I miss you, baby, and I don't want to miss a thing. At one time, it was the biggest selling single in the entire European continent, surpassing ABBA. Aerosmith purists were cold to it, but it introduced the bad boys of rock to a new generation, even if it didn't live up to the band's reputation. So coming in at #4 on the countdown is my favorite female singer ever. Everyone knows that Ann and Nancy Wilson are rock royalty, but even the Wilson sisters can have a stinker every now and again. They did this with All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You. Another song that thankfully they didn't write, but surprisingly, All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You was written by producer extraordinaire Mutt Lange in the 70s. It was supposed to actually be executed from a male perspective, which would make more sense. Mutt actually envisioned the song for Don Henley, but he passed on it. Here's what Ann told me about it.
Of course, it becomes a big hit, and I love Heart, but I hate that song. Probably just like you do.
Brother! I love Heart and I hate that song too. What the heck is
going on? But I love how years later, you guys were going to put it back in the set, and you're starting to sing it, and you're like, I'm not doing this.
Nah.
Tell me that story.
The thing about All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You is that I'm no prude. I'm not a Victorian woman or a prudish woman about where sexuality is concerned. But when you took those words that were written to be sung by a man about casual sex with a hitchhiker. I didn't ask him his name. And you flipped the gender.
Right.
It took on, it was shocking to be sure.
Right.
But for me, it took on a grossness.
A creepiness.
A creepiness. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly right. And, I sang and everything, and people really liked the groove of it, and I think a lot of people like the idea of like, hey, yeah, the woman in the driver's seat for a change, Well, okay, but that only goes so far.
I mean, nothing against Mutt Lange. He's incredible.
He's great. He's great. He's really talented.
I think you're right. I think I've thought of it that way, but turning it around, it kind of just...
Something weird happens there that's I wasn't ready to just keep singing it decade after decade after decade, I think I matured past it in about 10 minutes.
Creepy, I love that. In spite of Ann and Nancy's total disgust for this song, though, All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You connected with a multi-format audience. It went to #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 as a single from Heart's 1990 album Brigade. It's actually their last huge hit and gave them a hit in the 90s, 3 decades in a row with a big hit. But it became such a thorn in their side, they erased it from their history. Actually refused to play it live for decades. But over the last few years, Ann finally made peace with it. But it's still kind of creepy. At #3 on our list of bad songs by great artists is the horrible holiday hoo-ha that we have to hear every single year. Doesn't matter where you're at, you're going to hear it. Talking about Wonderful Christmas Time by the great Sir Paul McCartney. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. With apologies to Stevie Wonder, Paul may be the greatest living songwriter on the planet. Yet he wrote this annoying slice of garbage. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. So after Wings released Back to the Egg in 1979, McCartney was detained in Tokyo for carrying around 8 ounces of cannabis in his luggage. The band's Asian tour dates were canceled, and after being detained for more than a week, McCartney was released without charge and deported back to England. McCartney didn't immediately break up the band, but upon his return, he decided to record his own album while mulling over the band's future wings. It was in the middle of that crossroads that Paul had the idea of making a Christmas song that became Wonderful Christmas Time. He should have skipped the idea. When Paul first wrote the song, he loved the idea of creating something that would only come alive during the holiday season. A soundtrack for Christmas itself, inspired by the festive spirit of Liverpool family gatherings. That was in his mind.
We're here tonight, and that's enough.
The day that Paul recorded Wonderful Christmas Time, it actually wasn't very Christmas-like at all. In fact, Paul called it a boiling hot day in July. He recorded Wonderful Christmas Time during the McCartney 2 sessions, retreating to his farm to craft every track solo. At the time, Paul was diving into the emerging electro-pop sound, which explains the quirky boinging effect running through the song. The dunk, 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 That unique sound came from an early synthesizer called the Sequential Circuits Prophet 5. It's the same model used on hits like Kim Carnes' Betty Davis Eyes and the Doobie Brothers' What a Fool Believes, both much better songs. But Wonderful Christmas Time, it is pure Paul. He handled everything: vocals, keyboards, synths, guitars, bass, drums, percussion, jingle bells, even produced it himself. The playful lyrics were written in about 10 minutes, which isn't very surprising. It's like Norm Macdonald said,
"Hey, happy birthday, Jesus. Hope you like crap."
When Paul calls for the choir of children to sing their song, he's actually layering overdubs of his own voice to create the illusion of a choir. That's Paul.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
It was Paul McCartney's first solo single in like 8 years, since Eat at Home came out in 1971. What a song to come back on. The song has made its mark on the charts, though. It's landed in the top 10 in countries like Austria, Germany, Ireland, Latvia, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom, and the top 20 in Canada, Sweden, and Switzerland. But according to Forbes, an industry source claims that McCartney earns over $400,000 a year in royalties from just that song. That figure seems a little inflated. Songwriters with recurring hits often say their top earning tracks bring in around $10,000 to $15,000 a year. But the Beatles never officially released a Christmas single, actually, though they did share Christmas Time Is Here Again with their fan club in 1967.
Christmas time is here again.
As solo artists, however, all 4 members have ventured into holiday music, but Paul's Wonderful Christmas Time and John's Happy Christmas War Is Over. Those have stood the test of time and still dominate holiday airwaves. One not for great reason, but anyway. Although they are both considered Christmas songs, they really couldn't be more different, really demonstrating the fundamental differences between the two icons. John's track also serves as a powerful anti-war anthem, while Paul's song has really no duality. There isn't a lot of substance to Wonderful Christmas Time. There's not a lot of substance to a lot of Christmas songs, but this certainly isn't Eleanor Rigby, Yesterday, or even Band on the Run. But you know what? I've said enough about it.
The choir of children sing their song.
But there's no pretense to Wonderful Christmas Time. I mean, it was never intended to be anything more than just a simple festive song about Christmas. But it just goes to show you that even the great ones can take a big swing and strike out. Hey, Babe Ruth struck out 741 times.
Simply having a wonderful Christmas time.
Okay, coming in at number 2 on the list of bad songs by great artists. One of my favorite artists ever. But even I have to admit, this song sucks. It's 57 Channels and Nothing On by Bruce Springsteen.
At last dawn, there was 57 channels and nothing on.
Now look, I understand what the boss was doing when he wrote and recorded 57 Channels. I mean, the song does have some relatability, But it's not what we want to hear from the boss. His music has been a significant part of my being as far back as I can remember. I'm sure there's many that believe that too or feel that way. 57 Channels by Bruce on vocals and bass, and E Street keyboardist Roy Bittan, and the late Jeff Porcaro from Toto fame on drums.
57 channels and nothing on. 57 channels.
It was in the early 90s when Bruce was trying to find his footing after giving the E Street Band their pink slips. 57 Channels it's about a man so consumed by the fruits of his material success that he begins to get complacent and misses out on essential parts of human relationships, or writing really bad songs, till his neglected lover gets fed up, throws her hands in the air, and leaves him.
So I bought a 44 Magnum.
But Radio Nowhere is a much better song for that subject. I guess many of us can say that we've spent way too much time in front of the TV, changing channels. But Bruce did admit in a 1993 interview that he wrote 57 Channels as a joke one night sitting in front of the TV. Now, hardcore fans like me already know that because Bruce debuted the song at his famous Christic Institute performances in November of '90, introducing it as a song about loneliness, how there can be so much going on and nothing really happening.
Loneliness, how there can be so much going on and nothing happening.
Now, the final lines of the song reveal one last joke. Does John obliterate his television because it ended his relationship, or is it simply frustration at not finding anything worthwhile to watch? The song ends unresolved, leaving us to decide for ourselves with a few dark lines that suggest that the character John may be heading down a path of darkness.
I just let it blast till my TV laying pieces there at my feet.
I'm still in shock that this song was actually released as a single, but it was. It was a stiff in the US. It died at number 68 on the Billboard Hot 100. And it was a mid-chart at best in the UK and other parts of Europe. For some reason, though, Norwegians loved it. The single climbed to number 9 in Norway. Maybe TV's especially bad in Norway, I don't know.
57 channels and nothing on.
Okay, so my number one pick for when bad songs happen to great artists. So I have a band that was coming off 2 masterpiece albums. And then they released this piece of crap. It's almost unlistenable. So U2's frontman Bono once said in an interview with Hot Press in '93, and I quote, "It's always technology that spurs rock and roll's mutations. It's the fuzz box that gave us the electric guitar, the sampler that gave us rap music, and so on. And while I have respect for people who wish to ignore that filthy modern tide, I don't want to. I couldn't." End of quote. Now, that's very intriguing to me, that quote. I agree that technology has helped shape the evolution of music, and it's been the conduit leading to some revolutionary sounds. But I've never found any lasting value in music that, is too caught up in projecting a concept. I mean, firstly, with a few exceptions, concept songs don't hold up really well. They're not ultimately songs that impact a person's life. I mean, there's examples that do. Secondly, when a track is too centered on a concept, to me it loses its lyrical power. When I think back on the songs that have had the biggest impact in my personal life, they're all songs that had lyrical significance. Again, I'm a lyrics guy. This is why I've placed U2's Zooropa at the top of our list of bad songs by great artists. I could have went with Get On Your Boots or with Numb from the same album, but I chose this one because it could have been a good song. But the track is all concept with no lyrical passion or resonance, at least to my ears.
A blue kind of white Zooropa.
Zooropa is a combination of 2 musical components. One that was created by the band in the recording studio, and then the second from a soundcheck recording from one of U2's concerts that was brought to the forefront by The Edge. Should have left it there. Bono wrote the lyrics to portray a sci-fi version of a morally confused European society. And Bono borrowed some slogans from actual advertising campaigns, and he weaved them in with the, let me think about that phrase, dream out loud. Bono and The Edge were reading the works of cyberpunk author William Gibson, who wrote about a futuristic urban environment known as the Sprawl. Gibson's writing was a major influence for the context behind the album, Zooropa. Bono incorporated his vision of using noise to create visual imagery for Zooropa, like he did with Numb as well, similar to what Gibson's futuristic world was all about. The 1982 cult classic Blade Runner starring Harrison Ford was also a big instigator, a big motivator for the invention of the track.
The Tyrrell Corporation.
Bono stated that he wanted the entire Zooropa album to be like legal drugs that would create a trip where you come out the other end and feel like you've been on some kind of journey. Problem is, it feels more like a really bad acid trip, like that scene from SLC Punk.
And melts the acid which went through his pants onto the skin on his leg.
So as the lead single and the title track from U2's 1993 album of the same name, Zooropa, was highly anticipated for sure. Now the song peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Album Rock Tracks chart and number 13 on the Billboard Modern Rock Tracks chart. But it didn't do much on the pop charts. I mean, hey, in 1993, I was really jacked up about this new U2 album. I couldn't wait to hear the new songs and buy the new CD. I bought it the day it came out when they opened up the gate. But I have to admit, I was disappointed when I heard Zooropa. It didn't move me like the Joshua Tree or Achtung Baby. And over all their catalog, Zooropa is completely disposable to me. I tried to get into it as something weird and wonderful. I mean, I tried to appreciate how different it was and admire the band's bold artistic ambition here, but I couldn't get there. Although Far Away So Close is a great song from the record, so there's good ones on there. But I mean, music is way too important in my life to fake it and to pretend to be into a piece of music just because it's supposed to represent something courageous or cutting edge.
Far away, so close.
I mean, an artist opening up their soul and being boldly transparent and vulnerable in a song is infinitely more effectual to me. But, you know, it didn't happen in Zooropa. How I summarize Zooropa, the song that's at the top of our list, an ambitious, innovative track that just never moved me. Not at all. Even though I fought with myself to change what was inside me because I really wanted to feel that song the way I feel countless other U2 tracks. But you know what? U2 has so many masterworks, I can't complain too much. So there you have it. 5 terrible songs by great artists. But what do you think? What are your picks? Should we do a sequel? There's so many out there, unfortunately. And you got to tell me about your picks below. What do you think are songs that are just so bad, but they're from great artists? I think it's fun to look at these sometimes and listen to them in a new frame of reference. All the songs I listed, I'm trying to think if there's even one that I could remotely like, and I can't. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are. Let's have a great discussion. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. Make sure to pick up your deodorant. And until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.